All right, hi, I'm Curtis Lindner. I work in the Historical and Americana department at Heritage Auctions, and I'm here with our managing director, Don Ackerman, and we're here to discuss some of the key pieces in the upcoming Roger Kimmel legendary sale of not only Theodore Roosevelt, but also wonderful items pertaining to Calvin Coolidge and also dating back to George Washington and up through the 2020 campaign. And we have a representation of a few items here right now we'd like to talk about. And hopefully you'll enjoy the discussion we're going to have with you. And you'll enjoy seeing the pieces that we are picturing today. Don, I want to just introduce Don. He's been with Heritage for probably 15 years, I guess.
Well, yeah, just about 15 years.
About 15 years. And Don and I, when we first got the images from Roger, we were pretty much blown away.
Yeah, it was extremely impressive. We had never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
This is without doubt the greatest Teddy Roosevelt collection of political items ever offered at any sale. And there's close to 2,000 items in the collection. And Teddy Roosevelt, everybody knows Teddy Roosevelt, we would hope. He's a household name. And he's certainly one of our greatest presidents, along with George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. And we have George Washington material in the sale. We have Abraham Lincoln material in the sale. But the bulk of the sale, the main focus is TR, as he was known, Teddy Roosevelt. So we consider it a landmark sale where it's an amazing collection.
And would you say that most people know Roosevelt as the Rough Rider? We also know him as the Bull Moose candidate.
Bull Moose candidate. He had a fantastic career, and he was president for 8 years. He was governor of New York. He was police commissioner of New York City. He went on a safari to Africa. He went out to the western United States on a ranch.
Yep.
And it was just, he did a great deal to establish the National Park Service and preserve parks out, Yosemite, out in the western part of the United States. So his achievements are remarkable.
And also, and I'm sure Don knows, prior to one of his speeches, I believe it was in September or October of 1912, when he was the progressive candidate, during that campaign, he was shot prior to giving a speech. And that actual speech, the letters and of the speech are in his childhood home in New York City in Gramercy Park.
Yeah, the speech should have stopped the bullet from going all the way through. And I believe he said it takes more than one bullet to kill a bull moose. And he just kept on with his speech. He kept going on and he completed his speech.
Yeah.
So, which is a great story. Matter of fact, I think somewhere the X-ray, they took an X-ray at the local hospital, and I think that X-ray still exists and came up at auction.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So,
why aren't we handling that?
I don't know. Maybe we'll get it one day.
I got to call Roger up and say we got to get that thing.
We got to get
Maybe Roger
to add it in here. But
a remarkable thing.
Right.
You wouldn't see most candidates, have that happen to them and continue with their speech. He did collapse, I understand, after that, but taking a bullet in the chest, even though it went through his speech, is still pretty remarkable. Yeah. So, it's pretty neat, pretty amazing.
And I think we'll mention, of course, that the auction, when the auction is taking place, which will be Friday, February 21st, and Saturday, February 22nd. So all the items are available for viewing at our website, ha.com, and just take a browse through it. I mean, I think you'll be like Curtis and I, blown away by this material. It's just wonderful. So we've got a bunch of things here to talk about, little highlights from the collection, representative pieces. So I think let's start some show and tell.
Why don't we start with one of the earlier pieces is this wonderful Abraham Lincoln and Andrew Johnson back-to-back Pharaoh type. An absolutely tremendous specimen. These pieces tended to have a lot of bubbling and cracking and things of that nature, but this one is just spectacular.
Right.
And you'll be able to see wonderful images of it on our website. And I think this is something that a lot of collectors are really going to focus on if they're Abraham Lincoln or 19th century buyers.
I mean, this looks like the day it was made. Absolutely gorgeous. And even though this particular variety shows up once in a while, when you get a high-grade specimen like this, it should sell for a premium.
And also the great George Washington, our first president ever inaugurated in the United States, down at
New York City.
New York City. This is a button in celebration of his inauguration in 1789, and a really nice specimen of this inaugural button for George Washington.
Right, and it's interesting thing about this is they used his initials, GW. So I mean, later on we're used to FDR and JFK and LBJ, but with George Washington, our first president, they referred to him as GW. So he really, that started the whole thing of using initials to designate an American president. And this one says, "Long live the President GW." Of course, he didn't live too long, about 10 years after he was inaugurated. But these are highly desirable and wonderful artifacts from 1789. And so we've got representations for the three greatest presidents, Washington, Lincoln, and Teddy Roosevelt.
Yep.
So let's talk about some of these Teddy Roosevelt items.
Yeah,
here.
how about maybe we'll go with this one right here. Just a tremendous button showing TR in his Rough Rider outfit. Of course, Teddy Roosevelt was thought in 1898, he was up San Juan Hill. He ran for vice president with William McKinley, and then took over for McKinley after McKinley was assassinated. Then he went on to win the presidency against Alton Parker in 1904, and then chose not to run in 1908. But this is a great button that shows TR not only in the normal image that you might see Teddy Roosevelt on campaign buttons, but also in his Rough Rider outfit.
Yeah, we had never seen this before. This is probably, as far as we know, this is unique, and it was made by a private individual in Terre Haute, Indiana, and I guess he couldn't promote it. People weren't interested in it because it's sort of odd to have two pictures of Teddy Roosevelt on the same button. So it's a mint condition, and again, we have never seen it before, so we expect a lot of interest in this particular one. It's one of the better, in the top tier Teddy Roosevelt buttons in the hobby.
The next one is this great cartoon buttons were very popular in the early part of the 20th century, and this one is just fantastic, and Don will tell you about this one.
Well, this one, it's based on a cartoon by Clifford Berriman, who was a very talented cartoonist, and Clifford Berriman is actually the creator of the teddy bear image that's associated with Teddy Roosevelt. And this came about after a hunting trip down in Mississippi, and supposedly some friends of TR found a little cub bear, and they tied it to a tree, and they said, go ahead and shoot it if you want. And Teddy Roosevelt said, I'm not going to shoot this little bear. So the teddy bear became a very popular symbol, and they started manufacturing toys. And so Clifford Berriman, who was obviously a Republican, decided to make this cartoon that shows Roosevelt and his vice president, Charles W. Fairbanks, prancing towards the White House with a teddy bear in tow. And the teddy bear is holding a sign that says, 4 years more of Theodore. So it's a very rare button, and it's charming. It's got the president, it's got the vice president, it's got the teddy bear. I mean,
it's got it all.
It's got it all. It's wonderful, wonderful piece.
There's one more we're going to show you from TR, because we're going to leave the last one, I think, for best. This one right here.
Got this one.
I guess we call this the ghost button?
Right. Collectors refer to this as a ghost button. So it's got a color picture of Teddy Roosevelt, George Washington, and Abraham Lincoln. Again, the three greatest presidents. And it says, the combined spirits of Washington and Lincoln for president 1904. So it's linking TR with both Washington and Lincoln. And TR was a big, big fan of Lincoln. He loved Lincoln. And his Secretary of State, John Hay, was one of Lincoln's private secretaries.
Exactly. That's right.
And John Hay gave Teddy Roosevelt a gold ring with a lock of Abraham Lincoln's hair in it as a present when he was inaugurated in 1905, excuse me. But like I say, he was a great admirer of Teddy Roosevelt. Later on, by the way, it was sort of interesting because Teddy Roosevelt had a falling out with William Howard Taft later on, his successor. And Taft wasn't very politic about it or polite. And he made the statement that Teddy Roosevelt, no one admires Lincoln more than Teddy Roosevelt, but resembles him less.
Ooh.
So
I didn't know that.
A little dig there against his predecessor, Teddy Roosevelt.
And Don and I are both Lincoln. We collect Lincoln pieces, and so this, if you're a Lincoln collector, or this is something, even if you're not a Teddy Roosevelt collector, this piece would fit right into your collection if you are a Lincoln, or even a GW collector. So we're going to leave from a Teddy Roosevelt standpoint, we're going to leave the best for last.
Best for last.
Is that one right there. And then we're going to just dip into a little Calvin Coolidge for a brief moment. But Don, tell us about this button. One of only, a handful known?
I can't find any auction records for this button. It was issued for the Railway Employees 20th Century Club, and it has pictures of Roosevelt and his Vice President Fairbanks in the head locomotive, and it says to Washington 1904. And Heritage sold this many years ago, and it realized $18,000. And I haven't seen can't find any auction records for it anywhere. So this could be one of a kind. And it's just one of the top Teddy Roosevelt buttons in the hobby.
Oh, yeah. And truly a centerpiece for any Riker mount or any display that a collector might want to put together. It's one of the best. When I went up to Mr. Kimmel's home up in Connecticut, I immediately went over to one of his trays and saw that in there. And I think Don will attest, prior to me going up to Connecticut, Roger was kind enough to send us several scans. And again, that was one of the highlights in the collection. Roger, Mr. Kimmel also collected Calvin Coolidge material. And you can see this amazing 6-inch button we have with Coolidge and his running mate, Charles Dawes. Normally these, you see them with cracks and condition issues, but this one is just spectacular.
Right. And this was attached, believe it or not, you wouldn't wear this type of button. This was attached to the front grille of an automobile, like a radiator attachment, and normally, because they were exposed like that, the examples that show up are usually damaged. But this one is in really good condition. So someone, fortunately, they didn't put it on the grill of their car. They saved it, and it's one of the top, probably the top Coolidge button in the hobby. And Calvin Coolidge, of course, was a very conservative politician. He said that the business of America is business, but he had a very dry New England sense of humor. And there's a lot of interesting stories about him. But it was like, the 1920s was a very tumultuous time. It was the roaring 20s. And he was an odd counterpoint to the time. But he was a popular president, and he was, an appropriate president for the time. But he's actually most famous for saying in 1928, "I do not choose to run for re-election." So he just served the one term in office, and then he retired. But again, it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful piece.
And lastly, we'd like to talk about this, that we call them Jugits in the hobby, where it pictures just like this piece, the president and also his running mate. This also has, it's a very odd design. There is a Hoover and Curtis mate to this from
1928.
28?
Smith and Robinson also.
But a great rarity that rarely shows up in this condition.
Right. Coolidge endorsed for the nation's cause. And there was a song, a campaign song with that same title. So I guess that inspired the button, or the button inspired the sheet music. We don't know which. But it's one of the top Coolidge buttons, very rare, was made by a company in Chicago. So again, anybody that's looking for some items representing Silent Cal, this would be a very good choice.
Well, thank you very much for everybody spending your time with us. Again, the auction, legendary auction, the Roger Kimmel Collection, which we're so proud to offer, is on February 21st and 22nd. Feel free to contact myself, Don, or our coworker Ray Farina for any questions. And we're certainly glad that you were able to stop by and see our video. Don, do you have anything else to add?
No, it's just it's a landmark collection, some wonderful material. You know, collecting buttons is a lot of fun, and if you're not a button collector and you're thinking of getting involved with this, I couldn't think of a better place to start. There's 916 lots. I hope that everybody who participates will wind up winning a few items.
I think we were talking about this either this morning or yesterday. This is the largest assemblage offering, I would say, of a Teddy Roosevelt button collection.
Right. There's close to
items.
Close to 2,000 items.
Yeah.
And there's postcards, there's buttons, there's ribbons, there's prints, there's tokens and medals. A little bit, no matter what area of interest what your area of interest is, I think you'll find something there. There's watch fobs.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
It really is. And again, in closing, I'd just like again to thank Roger Kimmel for allowing us to handle his collection. They were he and his family were very gracious to have Heritage come up and view his collection and take it into our custody. And we certainly treated it like we would treat our own material.
Absolutely.
We were just so pleased to do it. And I guess that's about it. Thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you at the auction.